Hello, and welcome back to the Wizard's Respite Sanctorum, the show that dives into all things TTRPG. We are diving in deep on a topic today, really getting our DM, GM hats on and breaking down a myth, a fable, a lie we all tell ourselves. That is the one shot is something that anyone can accomplish. But before we dive too deeply into that, I want to introduce Zachariah from Old Man Gaming, my co-host and partner in all things TTRPG and this platform. Zach, how are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Not too bad. I'm ready to have some fun with this. I think every DM out there, every GM out there, everybody that's played, that's run these games, has a plethora of stories where they've told themselves, "Oh, it'll just be one game. We'll have fun," and it never ends that way. It never goes that way.
I have to reveal a secret.
Uh-oh.
I have slightly trapped you into this episode.
Uh-oh.
I've successfully run one-shots.
You have? Hot take, everybody.
What a twist. I have. I run 3 of them. They are called my contract bribe games. But yes, I have run one-shots before. They revolve around Hong Kong action shoot-'em-ups with really quick, brutal systems. And the idea behind it is there is a loose story that brings a bunch of relatively bad shooty people together, and then everybody starts shooting each other until there is only one person left, and then I pull it together as a storyline, finish it up in the 3rd act, and we're done. And the people who win the contract bribes are the people who survive them.
Okay.
I've done 1, 2, 3. 5. I've done 5 of them.
Now, this is a homebrew game of your own, right? Core rule system of your own. So,
and then it's not a good system.
Well, okay, so this was going to be something that, like, I've played through some one-shots that were actually true one-shots. And what I've noticed in those systems, particularly systems that are established RPGs that are basically long-form RPGs, is that the only way to get through a one-shot is to cut out what you would typically do for a game. Like, cut out something, some aspect of it. So it's not so much necessarily saying that there are no such things as one-shots, but more leading to the idea that your regular RPG game is not built for a one-shot. So if you're going to run one, it's not really running your normal RPG game. It's running its own thing almost. It sounds like you've developed a game system that is really more like a sit down and play.
And that's what I was going to go with. Is like, if you want to do a one-shot, the key has to be one shot. Like, there has to be a clear cut, this is going to end. And everybody at the table understands that. There is, I also want to point out, there is somebody who I know I have been part of one-shots that have actually worked as well. Again, it's only 2 types of games that I've ever accomplished this amazing feat in. And that was mine, which was the contract bribe games, which, again, were just shoot 'em ups until I had like 1 or 2 people left, and then really big shoot 'em up, see if I couldn't kill him, and then they killed the bad guy, and that was it. They were kind of like meant to emulate a movie sort of thing. And I did one of those in the single mod system, just so you know. It did take 6 hours, but I did it in the single mod system.
Okay.
The other thing is, the other game, and I don't know what this game is called, weirdly enough. I've played it so many times, but in my garage game, the people who play at the garage game are very into horror. I am not. not a horror guy, but they're very into horror. And so we didn't do it this last year, but usually around October, all the games that we are playing stop. And then for October and usually November, the games we play is some sort of horror game. Like I said, we didn't do it last year, but the year before that, it was Mothership. And then the year before that, it was this serial killer game that is extremely severe. I don't think I've ever seen a game so severe in my entire life. Everybody plays two characters, not one, and that's the rules of this game that is already written. It is not a homebrew. You play two characters. One of them's primary, one of them's extra. And then, you try and survive the serial killer. They would get two of those done in a session, like two like movie things of that done in a session, which was truly impressive to me, especially given how many people usually played, because he usually had a couple of extra players for that because his wife would get involved, and then there was another person involved, and so we had a lot of players at that table for everybody to have two characters and it to be that crazy. Some of the most fun I've ever had was during those serial killer games. I got to do weird accents. He encouraged you to play characters that were completely wild and crazy and just try whatever. It's always a slasher movie, but the actual movie, the setting is all randomly decided. The monsters and the killers are randomly decided, and it can actually turn out to be one of the players. Like, a very interesting game. And this is a game he owns. It's not a game that he like invented or anything. And yeah, so that's really good. It really lends itself really well to severe action or horror.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I think this is a little bit of a tricky topic. With that type of game, it's a role-playing game, but it has like almost a stripped-down mechanic level because it's still not really an adventure game. Right. You know, it's an action game. It's a horror game. Exactly. And so you're not having things that a fully fleshed out, long-running game campaign system would have. Like if you had a Dungeons & Dragons, a Pathfinder, right, or any of the indie games that are built up with these ideas to have long-running campaigns with level stacking and all that stuff, you'll have adventures and missions and the like that have multiple facets to them that just won't exist in these other types of indie games that you're like describing.
Right. You're right.
And so that's why I think it makes it so much more doable on those types of games, and why it makes it so much more impossible for your typical game, which I think most people, when you think these one-shot games, you're thinking, okay, a bunch of people want to get together and play an RPG. That's just what it is. That's why they want to do it. And they're going to want to either do Dungeons & Dragons because they've never played RPGs before and that's the only one that they know about. Or they want to try a new game system, or they're just excited about a new game system and they just want to give it a shot and see how it goes and get everybody together to play a one-shot or Pathfinder or single mod or whatever it may be. Right. But those game systems are designed for campaigns. And so it's really hard to turn that into like that system, that mechanic, that whole style of gameplay into a 4-hour session. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because you have to cut things out. You have to cut out whole elements.
You have to cut out a lot of things. And I think that's one of the big problems is when somebody sits down to do a one-shot, they're like, let's play this game and try this game. That's not the way you can do a one-shot. Like, a lot of people look at one-shots as like a demo, like how a video game would have a demo for it. And it's not that. It can't be that, because real TTRPGs, like long-standing TTRPGs, are made for long hauls. They're not made. I mean, hell, some of them don't even get good until the third or fourth session, as far as the stats and systems go. Like, I think one of my biggest mistakes as a game creator is I tend to give first level characters too much stuff, because I always hate being the first level character who's like, I can see all the cool stuff I'll get, but right now I just have Brute Strike. Okay, cool.
Right.
It's great. That's all I got. I got Brute Strike, and other than that, I fuck off. You know, like, whereas I like when, like, you have those strategic choices and stuff. Although that does tend to overpower my first level characters. But I think that like those guys, there's a lot of games like that require that, like, extended commitment to them to get good. I think if you're trying to want to do a one shot in something like Dungeons and Dragons or White Wolf or something like that, you're gonna have a really hard time doing it. I think there are systems, as we mentioned already, that like are distinctly created for the one shot. Fiasco is another one. They played it on Two Monsters Rolling Dice a lot, which was some of my favorite episodes of that show, even though it had nothing to do with the Western plot. I loved those. But Fiasco is another one. You have a lot of like system light, almost improv based games, and I think those really lend yourself well. There is a game right now that somebody's trying to get me to play that's like Blood on the Clock Tower, which seems like almost like a social deduction game, murder mystery thing that's very easy to play in one night. I think it's very hard to take something that was designed to do a long haul and make it into a one shot.
Yeah, I agree. So that's kind of like a word of warning out there for GMs that are trying to do this. And there's a temptation to do it because, you know, especially if you are trying to get a table together for the first time, no matter what your level is as a GM, or your experience as a GM is, you're going to be bringing together people, and everybody's going to try and get to know your style and or the game, or even what a tabletop role-playing game even is, because they're brand new to the hobby. So you want to run a one-shot to give them that taste of it, but it's either not going to be a one-shot, and it's going to end up being multiple sessions, or it's not really going to be what the game is all about, because you're going to have to cut out aspects of the game. And, you know, I think I have plenty of one-shots that ended up taking 4 to 5 sessions. And I can tell you those aspects of the games that if I really wanted it to be a one-shot, I should have cut out. One of the first ones is puzzles. You know, I like having sort of some kind of puzzly element in a lot of my games. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the classic fit the stones into the eye socket of the stone skull or whatever, but it's going to be some kind of like something that the characters have to think about, something that they have to figure out and accomplish, and that takes time. It eats up minutes.
I don't think there should be any puzzles. In fact, I think there should be a time limit on everything, and that makes it a little bit more pushy. You know what I mean? I think especially if you're running a system that's not made for a one shot. But I feel like we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. What's the point of a one shot? Like, that's what I want to really discuss before we even get into how you should do a one shot. Or try to make it possible. Like, we already talked about one-shot games that happen, but why do people play one-shots? Why do people want to play one-shots? I have only ever played one-shots for holiday special occasion situations, like the contract bribe that I told you about. Like, hey, we've got a bunch of people together that aren't usually together, that all love playing role-playing games. Can you throw something together? Why, yes, I can. You can all try and murder each other for about 4 hours. And then the only other reason I can think of is trying to get fresh players into role playing or a system? Like, those are the two reasons, right? Can you think of any other reasons that there is to do a one shot?
So getting fresh players in, and then the other one is impromptu is what you're kind of like a get everybody
special
together.
Occasion. Yeah, like people you don't usually get together. The only I guess I could think of maybe like demoing a new system that you haven't played for before. That might be something.
Yeah. I've done that a couple of times. Again, they did not end up being one shots, but I've given it a shot. There were one missions. Let's say that. Let's call it one mission.
That's where I was gonna go. It's like, so other than the holiday, we've got the impromptu special group that's never this group is never gonna be together again ever. Like, how do we deal with that situation? You have demo, right? You're either trying to bring a player in to RPGs, or you're trying to learn a system or see how a system plays in motion. But
there's one other one.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's one other one I can think of, and that's the one that we've done actually at my table a few times.
Okay.
And that is the DM needs a effing break.
I know exactly.
That's the other one. The DM needs to take a break this week. Can someone run a one shot for that poor man or lady?
That's a good reason. That's a good reason. Okay. All right. So should we discuss those each individually then?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that.
All right. Well, I wanna put the demo / get new people into the same group. Yeah. Because I think they kind of accomplish the same thing.
It's a demo for different reasons. Demo to demo a new system. Demo to show a system to a new person.
You shouldn't be looking at it as a one shot then. I mean, that and that's where I was going with this. You're trying to convince somebody to play a long-term game. That's what you're doing. Like, you could call it a one-shot, like, play this one game, see what you think. That's fine. It doesn't have to have an end, because if he sees what he thinks, or she sees what she thinks, and they like what they like, then they're going to keep playing it, or they're going to walk away and not really give a shit ever again. So it doesn't matter if it sees any sort of resolution. I would say on the other side of things, the demo side of things, same thing. You're trying to see the system. I will say, for doing those one-shots specifically, here's my personal advice, and then, of course, whatever you think, but my personal advice would be, in the case of trying to get players in, make it as exciting and snappy as you possibly can. Like, exciting and snappy. So I would say maybe create 90% of their character and then just give them a couple of choices so that they understand what character creation is without having to do the whole thing. Because, and I do want to say this, the enemy of any one shot is character creation, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
The enemy of time is character creation. Character creation is the worst part of any game ever. Like, I mean, it's not the worst, because I have a lot of fun creating characters. But if you're if you're getting together, how many sessions are like, we're gonna get together and play this game, and the entire session is people creating characters for the game that you've already worked so hard to play, and you don't get to make it. So I don't think you give them option, but at the same time, you want them to know what that is. So maybe take a couple of notes from them, have a couple of created characters, maybe let them select between the two, maybe even like have a couple of things that they can choose or do so that you can see, so they can see the customization without necessarily having to build the house, And then I would also say, with the demo, on the demo side, you are trying to test the system. That is what you are trying to do. Like, that is what do you want to play this game further? Like, if it's like a standing table and we want to try this new game and we want to see if this is the game we want to play. You're trying to test that. You're trying to test that game. Doesn't mean it can't have a story, but that story should involve this system over here for combat. That story should involve this system over here for social interaction. That story should involve this system over here. Like you should try and hit as many of the systems as humanly possible for a demo.
Yeah. And that, of course, just makes it so much longer and unpredictable, because if it is a demo, you do have people who are learning this game as they play it. They don't necessarily completely understand the rules because, let's face it, this is an RPG. You really don't know how to play these games until you play them and you start trying to work through every challenge, every even if you read the entire book all the way through, you don't even know how the DM is going to interpret it, those exact rules, and then express that in a scene that your character has to interact with. So now all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, I didn't know you could do that, and now what can I do? Hold on, let me read my book. Let me and now you're freaking out. And now the entire table does that at least once. And that's the entire session, just trying to figure out how to break it into the house, or, fight this one guy, or talk the captain of a spaceship into flying to the moon,
Yep. I think
whatever it may be.
I think I do want to say this. I also think that you have to be a very smart game master about the game that you're doing it in, right? So like if you're like playing a game like D&D with an extremely long combat system, right? Like a long combat tail, right? I would say you should be doing a set piece. And that combat should have an arbitrary end of 3 rounds. And then something happens where the fight isn't happening anymore. Because that moves the pacing. Like, if you're trying to convince somebody to play the game, you want them to see as much of the game as possible. So you want to keep that pacing good. Same with the demo. If you're trying to see as much of the systems as you can, and it's a long-winded combat system, you need to get in and out. You need to see it like, okay, I've seen it. I know what it's going to take to fully murder this person or get murdered myself. Now we need to move on to the next system, right? So like in and out. So like in Dungeons and Dragons, make the fight on a train. Okay? You're on a train.
Right.
And that train is going to derail in 4 rounds, and you're fighting a guy on the top. This fight ends in 4 rounds no matter what. So we're not going to spend 30 years here figuring out every spell and axe and move that you can do. We're going to get to the point. You're going to see what the combat is, and then something really exciting like the train derailing is going to happen. And then you get to survive that. I think that like, and same with the demo, like you want to see it. You want to see what it is and move on.
I will add a little bit to that. I really agree with that on a lot of levels, because you definitely want them to see all of these aspects of the mechanics, because whatever your demo purpose is, introducing a new character, a new player, or introducing a new system to your table, you want them to see it all. You want them to know it. You want them to understand it. How I would expand upon that like a little bit, I'd say the train was a good analogy. One bit of advice that I've always found so helpful when I'm trying to have a fast combat system is make a fire.
Yeah.
The house is on fire.
One too. Yeah.
You are going to either be out of that house or dead in 3 rounds because it is burning down around you.
Yep.
You're out of that house. Either the bad guy escaped because of the fire, or the bad guy is dead because of the fire. That's it. Yep. And the fire can be anywhere.
It raises the stakes. It pushes the pacing. It keeps the characters moving in one direction and through the content that you want to get. I mean, really, that's the point. Is you're trying to get through the content, as much of the content that you've created for them as humanly possible.
Right.
While also showing them how fun this can be. So a one shot, you got what, 4 hours? I mean, that's your standard. You got 4 hours to play. That's character creation. First act, second act, third act, you're out. That's a tough tall order, especially if you have a system that is built for the long haul. But at the same time, one of the things I wanted to point out at the beginning is if you're demoing it or you're playing it with a new player, you're not really playing that game to do a one shot. It's a one shot because that's all anybody's committed to. But you're not playing it for the purposes of a one-shot. You're playing it for either the purposes to get that person to play more, or to play that game more or play a different game. But either way, you're not really like doing it for the purposes to never do it again, which is a little bit of where the myth of the one shot comes from. Because, I mean, other than the first case that we were talking about, which was the, hey man, we're together, we're never going to be together again, let's do this. You know, there's not a whole lot of reasons to do a one shot, in my opinion. Like a true one shot.
Right. There's not a lot. There's definitely not a lot. But I feel like we probably have covered the demo reason a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's
like to cover the GM break reason. I have things to say.
Okay, let's well, okay, so the other two reasons was the GM break and everybody gets together, so let's just play a game.
Yeah.
It's almost like the same thing as playing Monopoly one night or Risk one night. It's going to take a really long time. Right. It's going to be fun. Everybody can laugh and go home and have the memory. Yeah. And it's done. Which one do you want to do next?
Whichever one you want, man. It's your show.
Let's save the GM break for last. I feel like we both have plenty of stories for that one. Yeah. Okay, so holiday hour game, or just a group of friends coming for out of town, just a random group. Just need something to do. It's better than a board game. It's different than a board game. That type of game. Now, Zach, I think you have probably run those and played those a little bit more than I have.
I have.
So I'm going to ask, like, how's that gone for you?
Especially when I was a kid. Like, it would be like, or not a kid, but in my 20s. And, like, everybody's scattered to the moon, but all of a sudden you'll get, like, a day where everybody's in the same place. And it's like, we all are nerds and want to play role-playing games, but there's 8 of us. And we don't have any game where we're all in. What are we going to do, you know? And, when I was younger, I was always that guy who's like, Zach will make a system. Zach will make something happen. Zach makes something happen, make a system. And I, like I said, came up with the contract bribe. I think there's, first of all, you should really consider either homebrewing a system that is extremely fast and violent, or picking a system that lends itself to this, like the slasher system I was talking about earlier. Now I can't remember the
Morkborg is another good one for that.
Morkborg, yeah.
You're gonna probably die anyways.
Yeah. Probably Fiasco, gonna die anyway. Yeah, all that stuff. Like that's what you're looking for. Really simple character creation. It has to be like, here's a character, you wrote like 3 things down, it's done. Especially if you got a lot of people. And then, again, it's about pushing the pacing. And I said this a lot in the demo. I think really one thing, and I'm going to say something that's going to make me sound arrogant. I'm not being arrogant. I think all of you know out there I am not an arrogant person, but I've been called a really good game master by a lot of people over the course of my life.
He is a really good game master.
I'm not a really good game master. I'm not a really good game master. It's tricks. It's just tricks. You just use some tricks. And when I was very young, I was into role-playing games pretty young, but like I wanted to be an action movie guy since I watched my first action movie. Like, I wanted to direct action movies. I wanted to be part of action movies. I would write action movies in my head. I just loved the idea of action movies. Action movies were my thing. And I took all of that when I started doing RPGs, and it's all pacing. It's just pacing. And it's really easy in an RPG to get bogged down with a situation. It's really easy in an RPG to get bogged down in a funny conversation, or bogged down with a puzzle, like you pointed out earlier, or bogged down with some other inane thing, like shopping. And I think that it's a trap. And as long as you avoid those traps and you push the pacing of the game, people will love the game, because that's where the action and the fun comes from, right? So I think
let's all on that. I'm really interested in your idea for pacing. Like, how do you try to increase that pacing? Because that's a really good point. I 100% agree. But what's your I really want to hear your take on how you do that.
Well, I mean, again, it's a lot of bullshit tricks. It's really like you're looking over here and I pull a card out of my butthole. Like that's the kind of stuff it is. Like people are like, "Oh, that's amazing." I'm like, "No. I just put a time limit. I put you on a train. That's that kind of thing. I put it on a train." Or I put it in a burning building, like you said. That's a great, easy way to do it. Just think about what is happening around the characters that you can use to push this, right?
Okay.
And like there was a moment in the last contract bribe we did in single mod, which I would argue I had a problem with pacing because I was still trying to find my feel for single mod in that way. But one of the things, somebody really failed an attack roll with a gun, so I had them shoot something that was explosive. That explosive thing detonated some things, and then other things started to detonate, and then I just waited for characters to make stupid mistakes, which caused more things to detonate, and then all of a sudden you've got a sinking boat. Like, it's stuff like that. Like, just look around the characters and what's going on, because... Man, this is really hard to like define it in words. Like,
let me.
When you're running a fight, and you're describing it to your person, your players, right? And it's like you're gonna say your player is Jack, and he's taken on 2 orcs, and you're like, there are 2 orcs. You're in a forest. There are 2 orcs. They come at you with swords. You pull your sword. This is the fight. Right? I think the big mistake is a lot of game masters think about it as the stats. They see the numbers in their head, like the Zach Galifianakis means. They start seeing the numbers. This is how much health they have. This is how much attack they have. This is how much health they have. This is how much attack they have. This is that thing. This and this is also one of the big reasons I hate maps. But I think you need to stay away from that and think about it in your head as a picture of what you want to see take place. Right? Because you saying to, like me saying Jack, like let's say Jack goes in, Jack's like, well, I'm going to charge up to him. I'm going to attack one of them with my sword. Then I'm going to attack the other one with my sword. And then I'm going to do like a shield bash. Right? Okay, well, I could be like, roll. All right, you hit him for this much damage, and then you hit that orc for that much damage, and they're still up. That one's looking a little worse for wear. There's nothing really wrong with that, but it doesn't push the pacing at all. It doesn't push the idea that there's a fight, there's a life and death situation going on. It feels like you are a commentator for a chess tournament. And I think a lot of game masters fall into that. Whereas you could very easily describe that as something like, all right, the orcs are snarling. They're starting to split. They're starting to flank you. Okay, Jack, you rush the one, seeing an opening on the right side. You come in. He tries to block with an axe, but he doesn't quite get it. And you cut him good and hard across the chest. As the other one charges you from the right side, you're ready. You stab into him with the thrust, and then you shoulder block him. He stumbles backwards into a tree, crashing into it. Branches break everywhere. Birds fly out of the forest, causing that kind of situation as you turn back around just in time for that orc to attack you. You see, I push the pacing. There's no fire. There's no train. There's nothing that is making it a situation, but I'm pushing the pacing of the fight by making the fight a fight instead of a move on a table. And that's just the trick. You just got to push it. If I wanted to push the pacing even more in that fight, I could say something like, the orc falls backwards into a dirty, broken tree. That tree actually cocks over and ends up like breaking and landing against a branch above you guys in the clearing. At any point in time, the branch could give way, and that huge dead trunk could fall down and potentially crush you or your orc opponents. And now the player has to think, do I want to leave this clearing, potentially giving my back to the orc so that he can attack me, or do I want to stay and fight and risk the tree coming down? And what are the rules of the tree? How is the game master going to decide the tree coming down? Like that's things that you can do to push the pacing in the moment, in the fight, that keep people moving forward. And like, it is really easy in a game of numbers and dice to get really stagnant in what's happening in front of you. And that's when you lose the pacing, you know? And that's kind of what I mean by pushing pacing. I don't know if I did a good job of describing that or not.
No, yeah, I think you did, and that right there gives I think a lot of people um, a couple of your tricks that help with that energy of keeping the energy very high and impactful with your descriptions as the GM. Helps keep everybody like high and impactful with their decision making. Just increases the electricity at the table, and then there's also the random danger always lurking around the corner. And one other thing that you mentioned very specifically that I really love is forcing decisions. Like with your description of the orc, you're forcing the characters to make a decision. You're not railroading them. It's up to them whatever decision they want to make.
Right.
But it's saying like the world has put you in a situation. Decide what you do with it right the F now.
And I think that's a huge miss when game masters don't like game masters. I think concern themselves with being fair too much, and I think there's a difference between being fair and not being fair. I don't know. Like a game master would be like, well, why would the tree fall down? Because the orc hit it. He hasn't done X amount of damage to the trunk, which would need to take X amount of damage. And then I would have to roll to see if the trunk hits on the branch and whatnot. No. That's life, man. Shit happens. And then you've got to deal with the shit. It would be unfair if I had the orc slam into the tree topples over and just hits the player. That's not fair. That's no screwing the player over. Right, there's no decision. But me dropping a something into their way, an obstacle that is more than the fight itself, is not unfair. It's just now how do you deal with this with the orcs? I love to do that in fights. And if a fight ever feels stale with me, I will try and push narrative by being like, okay, now this thing is happening. Well, now this thing is happening. Well, now this thing is happening. Because I think it's very easy to fall into that trap of once you're in the fight, the entire world around you stops while you're in that fight. And that's not true. You know, like if you're getting chased by a bunch of people even, or like those two orcs right now, you're fighting them in the clearing. They came out, you're fighting them. Okay, you fought him for a round. Those birds came up, the tree fell over. Well, it's just two orcs. Where the fuck are all the other orcs? You know there's more than two orcs out there. Right. So how long is it going to be before those other orcs show up? And is Jack's character going to be able to hear those orcs coming? And like that kind of stuff pushes, you know what I mean? Like there's so many things. Like you should be always concerned with the world around the what's happening in front of you more almost than what's happening in front of you.
I got a couple of little almost very very much a similar thing to what you just said. It just reframed slightly with a few tweaks that I've noticed being very helpful at my last couple of tables. Sessions actually. I've been doing this for maybe about 2 months now at my home session.
Okay.
One of them is dungeon turns. This is something that I completely forgot about. This was written in the original AD&D to help speed up dungeons and speed up dungeon. And if you've ever played the original AD&D, you know why you need to speed things up.
I have.
But essentially, whenever you enter a space, whether it's combat, whether it's just moving through a dungeon layer or whatever it is, everybody gets a turn, and then the dungeon gets a turn. Turns typically take around 10 minutes. So if you are in a catacomb, it takes 10 minutes to look through the bones for a key. It takes another 10 minutes while he's doing that for another character to go and sort of keep an ear out to see if anybody's coming in, and another character to look at the map to see where they need to go next. And then the dungeon gets a turn. Depending on what the characters have done on their turn, you decide how risky they're being and what may happen. Does the guy who's keeping an ear out hear somebody coming? Does the guy looking at the map realize there's potentially an obstacle ahead of them, and they have to be really careful through there, you know? Does the guy looking for the key in the bone suddenly find a spider crawling out of it because he's not being very careful, or his role to investigate it is kind of shitty, and he's just running too fast? that dungeon turn is kind of like what you had said about the tree falling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's this rando thing that you never know what happens that forces the characters to make a decision. And if you can make that turn in the dungeon very decision oriented, like you hear footsteps coming, now everybody's got to decide on the next one. Do we run? Do we run fast? Do we hide? Do we sneak away? You know, do we sneak? Do we, or what do we do? Those are just decisions that they have to decide right the F now. And if you have a table that takes a lot of time deliberating and you're trying to make it fast, stop talking.
Yeah.
Say, you guys talking right here happens in the dungeon. That is your next dungeon turn, and those footsteps just got closer.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's another thing, and that's something I didn't focus on. I think that you just touched on. You can push pacing in talking conversations too. When I would do the contract bribe, it was always like they had done something like stolen a bunch of money and they were trying to get away from like the Yakuza. So like everywhere they went, they were going to turn around the corner and there was going to be like 15 guys trying to kill them. So like, so like if they talked for too long, they knew, oh, I'm going to get attacked. Like if we stagnate here, we're going to get attacked by other people. The biggest contract bribe I had 10 players. And what I did was I copied the plot from a movie I like called Mean Guns, where basically like the big killer has all these little killers and has just decided they've all wronged him in some way. So he has them all surrender their weapons and locks them in a prison. And not individually, but just puts them in a big prison auditorium, and the prison's not open yet, and then just dumps all the guns and weapons onto them, and then like the last one who lives gets to walk out of here. And that was great because like if you stopped to have a conversation, there were other people just running around trying to kill you. So like,
right, yeah.
So like
that's how you catch a bullet.
Right,
you spend
exactly.
too much time jabbing, and now you're going to catch a bullet.
Exactly.
And like
so many ways to push it.
And another tool, like, so we're talking combat, but another one that was really useful that I just started using, I've never really done it before, is creating essentially that same mechanism for a dungeon turn in a city, or you could do this with a landscape, like if you're traveling a huge distance also, where and you can change the amount of time a dungeon turn takes from, 10 minutes within a dungeon to maybe an hour if you're in a city, or maybe a day if you're traveling a huge distance across a desert. But the idea is they're doing something in the environment. Everybody does one thing that helps them move forward, and then the environment affects them. So in the city situation, I could very easily see they're trying to get through the city to get to the boss's house, right? To take him down. But one guy's rolling his perception check, and the dungeon turn comes around, and then all of a sudden, hey, you see a old man in that gas station on the phone looking at you guys.
Right.
You're getting a real bad feeling. Why is he looking at you guys, and why is he making a phone call right now?
Yep.
You better get your butt moving. Now, how do you do that? Do you go talk to that old guy, see how much time you have? Do you guys just get in a car? You don't have a car. Do you rob a car?
Right.
Oh, crap. Exactly.
Exactly. You just push it. And like, I like to think of the world as its own thing. And I always do. Like, even when I'm not game mastering like a one shot or something, some of the best things that happen in my games come from just like, all right, they're talking in a street. What would happen in this street at any point in time that would be interesting? And then that happens, and then they deal with it or they don't deal with it, and I love that. The other day I was running the game for you guys, and we ran into an incredibly fun side character, the Navigator, who was not supposed to be there at all. I made up her name on the spot, and she became literally the impromptu straight man to Daniel's ridiculous ridiculous antics, and like stuff like that is just so cool when you're thinking about like think about where the character is and what would be happening around the character, and would that end up affecting the character? Are they talking in the middle of the road? They might get hit by a car, like stuff like that. Like, and I think that's that's really fun to mess with, you know. So
absolutely.
should we do the last one now?
Yeah. So the last one, what was it? The other reason, what was the last one?
Game Master
the
break.
needs a break.
Master
Oh
break.
yeah.
All
That's the other big reason for a one shot.
I got some hot takes on this one.
Okay.
Game
Let's hear the hot take. Let's hear it.
Game Masters. Game Masters. I want you to look at me. Look me in the eyes real quick. I want you to ask a real quick question. When you're feeling fatigued and you're like, man, I've been running this game for a while. Man, I really would like to just play. I want you to ask yourself a question. I want you to put that away, put it in a box, and ask yourself a question. Are any of your players going to do a good job in any way, shape, or form? The answer is no. Just take a couple weeks off and play a video game.
Right.
Because I feel like you end up getting these really weird one-shots where, like, it'll be like, okay, that was insane. What am I even doing here? And you're not getting the play that you want out of it from that. So it's hard. It's really hard. I have recently taken over for the Garage Game Master, and he's actually on a full break for the first time, like, ever that I've known of, because the one game that I'm not there in the off season, somebody else is game mastering. But this isn't the first time he's tried to take breaks. He's tried to take breaks, and he has found himself very dissatisfied before with weird gameplay. So it's one of those things where, like, the other thing is, in my opinion, you've got really two ways to do it, right? Because you don't necessarily want to play a one-shot, because you're going to make a character, you're going to get attached to that character, then never get to play that character again. Plus, all of your players are invested in their characters right now. Why would they want to make characters that they're not going to get to play again? So
that's a challenge, yeah.
You can have Chuck over here run a game in the same system or even a different system with completely new characters that gets to play once and run the risk of everybody there being divided on whether they want to go back or not. Or you can have Chuck take over for you, run a one-shot with your characters, kind of an in-between campaign sort of thing. And that could end really badly for everybody involved, because then they're messing with your world and your story. And you're not going to be able to take your Game Master hat off for that. So when I play, I tend to like to not be in my worlds that I've created just because of that.
Okay.
Obviously Ordo was a different case because
I
created that together and I started playing it, so I was okay with that. But like between Swords in the Sea, I don't know if I want to ever play Swords in the Sea. Like, I mean, I do, I really do, but at the same time, like, you run this risk of being the actually guy at the table that nobody likes, where, like, because it's your world, where it's like they're like, this thing happens, you're like, actually, the Rosari would never take place in that because they believe this. It's that wouldn't work there. You know, I can't make this canon in my head canon, and, like, I mean, game masters are control freaks. That's why we're doing it in the first place.
It can be a challenge. It can be a challenge.
Let's be honest with ourselves here.
The game master does occasionally need a break.
Yeah.
Now let's say like you have a good point. You know, like, I have played with lots of players, and some of them have told me their ideas for campaigns, and I'm like, you know, you might want to reread the rules. Like, I know you have these ideas. I have no idea how you're mechanically going to turn that into a game for this system, but that's cool. And then there's other times where like Daniel is one of my players. He's for those folks out there, he plays with us in
Sebastian Lee Senior on Dual Bastards.
Dual Bastards, yeah. Like, so you can see Daniel in our show. He's a fantastic player. I love him at my table. He's also a fantastic DM. He DMs his own table at his house, and he has run a couple of one-shots for me. I am very happy that I have a DM at my table for two reasons. One, when I forget a rule, he reminds me, and two, when I need a break, he's run a couple of one-shots for me.
That's great.
And so, like, he does a great job running these one-shots also. Now, the last one-shot that he ran for me, I was burnt out. I had a lot going on for my work. We also had a couple of players that were going to be out, so it was a perfect time. It was a smaller group. He took, I think it was a module that he purchased off of the DM's Guild, and he ended up in the middle of the game cutting out whole rooms of exploration because we were getting close to the end of the game, and he was like, we need to finish this up right now. Can you guys go like another 30 minutes because this is out. Bad guys in the next room now. Time for boss fight. Because he had to. He just had to.
Yeah.
And he's a good DM, so he was able to make it roll that way. And it worked out really, really well. I got my break. I got to play a barbarian, easiest character build to play.
That's fun.
And I was able to be a complete goofball on that table. It was a real relaxing time. But it's hard. It's hard. I could tell, he had to cut out huge sections of this one shot, or otherwise it wouldn't have been a one shot. Yeah. So there's definitely times when the DM break can be a thing. But you're right.
I feel
you have to make sure the player's doing it.
Yes, dude. There's this one guy who took over at the garage. He was just over obsessed with describing how hot people were. And I started to be like, is this like Pornhub? Where am I right now? Like, what is this game about? I think that I think that
it's another show in of itself. How long do you describe the hottie? Because
we still make fun of his hand motion for boobs. He would do this for boobs. I have no idea why. But he would do that, and it was just the creepiest thing ever. God bless him. But I think that if you're a game master, one thing you should do, if you're a regular game master, is you should try and seek out another game to play. Even if it's one here and there or whatever, I think you should try and get a semi-regular game just on the side. It doesn't even have to be with the people you play with. Like, Wiz, you do a lot of playing for this channel, so you have some play outlets now. I used to have play out. I just realized I don't have any play outlets, but I had the garage for when I was game mastering this. I think that just seek out a play outlet. And I think it's good for your game mastering too, because I have definitely as a player, definitely made mental head checklists of oh, I don't like this part. I don't want to do this in my game. And this is how I would make this better. Don't say that to the game master. Just take away what you want from it. I've talked about this before many times, I'm sure, on this show. I was in a Star Wars game that was awful beyond all recognition because the guy did maps for conversational scenes, and then when we got to the star fighting, which is all I wanted to do was pilot a ship, it was trading punches with a TIE fighter. There was no dog fighting or descriptions or anything. And that was when I was I'm never going to do this. I took those notes and was as a player, I don't like any of this. So I'm going to try and not do this for other people. And I think that is something that you can take with you. And I think it's good for a game master to play every so often. I think it's a tricky proposition. It's a real tricky proposition. It is, but it's worth it. I definitely agree. I think you definitely need to,
it's great to have a game where you play as the player. Like,
Yes.
we took a little bit of a break over the last couple of like almost like I guess a month almost, where our games online that we do the actual plays for had to be on pause for a little bit, and I was definitely feeling the strain of being the DM constantly on my other games, and I was starting to get a little burnt out. And then now we played a couple of sessions, and I'm feeling recharged again. I got my mojo going back up. There's something about the switch between the two that definitely allows you to plug your battery in and get your juices flowing, your excitement flowing for the game again. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I don't know what kind. It's like a psychologist is going to have to break into GMs at some point and figure out what's going on inside their head that make that a thing. But
yeah, we're a strange breed.
It's a thing.
We're a strange breed of obsessive compulsive, borderline psychopaths.
We are. But yeah, so one shots possible.
The hubris of man.
Yeah, you can do a one shot. Asterisk. Right. Big asterisk.
Big asterisk. I think when you.
I think we've run down a couple of rabbit holes on this one. I think we gave some ideas as to like how to make one shots a little bit more doable. When to do them. Why to do them is really the point. Why are you doing them? Think first about why you're doing it.
It's a big one.
And then
that
go
should
from
inform
there.
all your decisions. All your decisions.
Yeah. Sit back and ask yourself, why am I running this one shot? And what am I going to get out of it? What are they going to get out of it? What are my players going to get out of it? Yeah. Now you have like a good foundation to go. Any last thoughts on the one shot before we close up the show today?
No, I'm super happy with this episode. It's rambly and all over the place, but I had a lot of fun.
Same here. I think we covered it all. I think I think actually what I just finished on was my take is, think about why before you do, and you're gonna come out ahead. I think that's gonna put you in a better place. Anything you want to plug before the end of the day?
I will say this. We are working very hard to get some more actual play content out there. We have Ordo. The third hunt is well on its way to being done. I think probably 2, maybe 3 sessions we're going to be in the finale of that one. And then Dual Bastards Season 2 has hit some snags, but we are now recording, and we always go through those pretty fast. So that should be up relatively soon. And then who knows what's on the wings for people coming in the future.
Yeah, very excited about that. Very much looking forward to seeing all of this up online again. These are the games where I get to play the play as a player. So I'm very excited just to be participating. This is my outlet.
Right. Same here.
Everybody out there, please check this out, wizardsrespite.com. Check out Old Man Gaming on YouTube. We are doing all kinds of these things. Please keep it going. We got merch, t-shirts, and all kinds of things at wizardsrespite.com. Please check out the shop. Please check out the articles. Please check out all the videos that we do up there. And until next time, everybody out there, keep rolling them dice.